What if I told you that there's one specific part of a woman's body that she only allows men she trusts and feels attracted to touch, and if she lets you touch it, it's a psychological signal that she's emotionally and physically open to you? Stay with me, because understanding this could completely transform how you read female interest and attraction. You're on a date with a woman you really like. The conversation is flowing, she's laughing at your jokes, the energy feels good. But you're not quite sure where you stand. Is she just being friendly? Is she actually attracted to you? Should you try to escalate physically, or will that ruin everything? You're reading every signal, analyzing every word, trying to decode whether she sees you as a potential partner or just another nice guy she's spending time with. And then it happens. During a moment of conversation, you casually touch her lower back as you guide her through a doorway. Or maybe you're sitting close and your hand naturally rests on her knee during a shared laugh. And she doesn't pull away. She doesn't tense up. In fact, she seems to lean into it. What just happened? Was that just politeness? Or did you just receive one of the most powerful green lights in female psychology? Here's what most men don't realize. Women have very specific psychological and physical boundaries around touch. These boundaries aren't random. They're hardwired into female psychology as protection mechanisms and trust indicators. And when a woman allows you to touch certain parts of her body, she's sending a clear subconscious signal about how she feels about you. Before we identify the specific body part, you need to understand the psychology of touch and female attraction. Women operate with what psychologists call proximity zones or intimacy gradients. These are psychological boundaries that determine who gets physical access to different parts of their body. Strangers and acquaintances get access to the most public, non-intimate zones, handshakes, maybe a brief hug. Friends get slightly more access, arms, shoulders, maybe a side hug. But romantic interests, men she's attracted to and feels safe with, get access to more vulnerable, intimate zones. The key word here is vulnerable. Certain parts of the body are psychologically coded as vulnerable because they're either sensory-rich, difficult to defend, or culturally associated with intimacy and sexuality. When a woman allows a man to touch these vulnerable zones without resistance, her subconscious is communicating trust, comfort, and openness to deeper connection. And the most powerful indicator? It's not what you might expect. Let me tell you exactly which body part reveals everything. The lower back, the ultimate trust signal. The lower back is one of the most psychologically significant areas when it comes to female attraction and trust. Here's why. The lower back is a vulnerable zone. It's an area she can't see when you're touching it. It's close to more intimate areas of her body. And culturally, it's associated with guidance, protection, and romantic intimacy. When you place your hand on a woman's lower back, whether you're guiding her through a crowd, leading her to a table, or standing close during conversation, you're entering her intimate proximity zone. If she allows this without tensing, pulling away, or creating distance, it's a powerful psychological signal. Let me give you a real-world example. You're walking with her through a busy restaurant. You naturally place your hand on her lower back to guide her toward the table. She doesn't react negatively. In fact, she might even slow her pace slightly or position herself closer to you. That's not just politeness. That's her subconscious signaling comfort with your touch and openness to your masculine leadership. The psychological principle here is called proprioceptive intimacy. When someone allows you into their personal space and touches zones they can't visually monitor, it indicates deep trust. Compare this to touching her shoulder or arm. Those are visible zones she can monitor and control. The lower back requires her to trust that you're not going to overstep or make her uncomfortable. But here's where the psychology gets even more revealing. The neck and behind the ear, the intimacy gateway. If a woman allows you to touch her neck, the side of her face, or behind her ear, you've entered an extremely intimate psychological territory. The neck is one of the most vulnerable parts of the human body from an evolutionary perspective. It's where major blood vessels are located. It's exposed. It's sensitive. When a woman tilts her head to give you access to her neck, or when she doesn't pull away when your hand brushes near this area, her nervous system is telling you, I feel safe with you. This often happens in more intimate moments. Maybe you're tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, or you're leaning in close during conversation and your hand naturally moves to the side of her neck. Pay attention to her response. Does she close her eyes briefly? Does she lean into your touch? Does her breathing change? These are all subconscious responses that indicate she's not just tolerating your touch, she's enjoying it and emotionally opening to you. The psychological principle is arousal through vulnerability. When women allow men to touch highly sensitive, vulnerable areas, it activates both trust and attraction simultaneously. It's her body's way of saying, "This person is safe enough to be vulnerable with." Have you ever noticed how a woman's body language completely changes when she trusts you versus when she's just being polite? Drop a comment about the signals you've picked up on. But there's another zone that's even more psychologically telling. The inner wrist and hands, the emotional connection zone. This one surprises most men because hands seem like such a casual, non-intimate area. But here's the psychology. The inner wrist and the intertwining of fingers are deeply connected to emotional intimacy and romantic bonding. When a woman allows you to hold her hand, not just a quick handshake, but actually intertwine fingers or gently trace the inside of her wrist, she's allowing emotional vulnerability. The hands are incredibly sensory-rich. The palms and inner wrists have more nerve endings than almost any other non-sexual part of the body. When you hold a woman's hand during conversation, or when you gently touch the inside of her wrist while making a point, and she doesn't pull away, she's demonstrating comfort with emotional intimacy. Let me give you a specific scenario. You're sitting across from each other at a coffee shop. During a moment of deeper conversation, you reach across the table and gently place your hand over hers. She doesn't immediately pull back. Instead, she might rotate her hand to interlock fingers with yours or allow the contact to linger. That's a psychological green light. The principle here is called consent through acceptance. When women are uncomfortable with touch, they create immediate physical distance. When they're open and attracted, they not only accept the touch but reciprocate it. And this connects to something even deeper about female psychology. Understanding the context, it's not just about permission. Here's what's crucial to understand. It's not just about whether she lets you touch these areas. It's about the context and her response. A woman might tolerate touch out of politeness, social pressure, or fear of being rude. That's not the same as genuine openness and attraction. The difference is in the microsignals. Does she lean into your touch or lean away? Does her body relax or does she tense up? Does she maintain eye contact and smile, or does she look away uncomfortably? Does she reciprocate the touch in some way, or does she create subtle distance? These microsignals tell you everything about whether her acceptance of your touch is genuine attraction or just social politeness. The psychological framework here is called congruence versus incongruence. When a woman's words say yes, but her body language says no, trust the body language. But when her body language is relaxed, open, and reciprocal, when she's leaning in, maintaining eye contact, smiling genuinely, and perhaps even initiating touch herself, that's authentic attraction. Now, let's bring this back to real-life dating situations. Think about the last time you were with a woman and genuinely unsure whether she was attracted to you. Instead of overanalyzing her words or trying to decode text messages, you could have simply calibrated your physical touch and observe her response. A gentle hand on her lower back when walking together, brushing a strand of hair from her face, holding her hand during a moment of connection. Her response to these touches would have told you everything you needed to know about her level of attraction and openness. And here's what's powerful about understanding this. It removes the guesswork. You're no longer operating on assumptions or hope. You're reading clear psychological and physical signals that her subconscious is broadcasting. This doesn't mean you should randomly touch women in inappropriate ways or ignore verbal consent. It means that in appropriate dating contexts, calibrated touch is one of the most honest forms of communication. But there's one critical principle that makes all of this work. The principle of escalation. Start small and calibrate. You don't lead with intimate touch. You build toward it gradually, calibrating at each step based on her response. Start with socially acceptable touch, a hand on her upper back, touching her arm during conversation, a playful nudge. If she responds positively, relaxed body language, reciprocal touch, maintained proximity, you can escalate to more intimate zones. A hand on her lower back. Fingers gently touching her hand. Brushing her hair back. At each level, you're calibrating. If she's receptive, you continue. If she creates distance or seems uncomfortable, you respect that boundary immediately. This gradual escalation serves two psychological purposes. First, it builds comfort and trust progressively. You're not overwhelming her or making her feel unsafe. Second, it creates sexual tension. The slow build of physical intimacy activates anticipation and desire in her psychology. The men who are successful with women understand this stance. They don't rush. They don't force. They lead with confident, calibrated touch and read the feedback they're receiving. Here's the deeper truth about touch and female attraction. Women aren't just evaluating whether you're physically attractive or successful. They're evaluating whether you're socially calibrated, emotionally intelligent, and capable of creating a safe container for intimacy. The way you touch a woman, your confidence, your respect for her boundaries, your ability to read her signals, tells her everything about what kind of partner you'll be. A man who touches with hesitation and uncertainty signals insecurity. A man who touches aggressively without calibration signals poor social awareness and potential danger. But a man who touches with confident gentleness, who pays attention to her responses, who escalates appropriately based on her receptivity, that man signals emotional intelligence, self-assurance, and genuine care for her experience. That's the man she feels safe opening herself to, both emotionally and physically. So here's the ultimate takeaway about touch and female psychology. The specific body parts, lower back, neck, hands, aren't magic buttons that guarantee attraction. They're indicators. They're signals that tell you where you stand in her psychological landscape. When a woman allows you into these intimate proximity zones, when she relaxes into your touch rather than resisting it, when her body language signals openness and trust, that's when you know you've moved beyond the friend zone into genuine romantic and sexual attraction. But this only works when you approach touch with respect, calibration, and genuine attention to her comfort and consent. Touch is a conversation. And like any conversation, it requires both people to be engaged, present, and responsive to each other. Master this language, and you'll never again wonder where you stand with a woman. If this opened your eyes to the psychology of touch and female attraction, hit that like button. It helps other men discover these insights. And if you want more deep dives into female psychology, attraction dynamics, and what actually creates chemistry between men and women, subscribe and turn on notifications. I break down the hidden psychology of dating every single week. Drop a comment below. What's your experience with reading physical signals from women? Have you noticed these touch patterns in your own dating life? I read every comment, and your insights help create better content for this community. Remember, attraction isn't mysterious, it's psychological. And when you understand the psychology, you gain the power to create genuine connection instead of hoping it happens by accident. Thanks for watching. Now go out there and pay attention to the signals. I'll see you in the next one.